Today we're going to look at how to mentally subtract 10 or 100. Yesterday we looked at subtracting just hundreds, but today we're going to look at how to do that with tens as well. Our essential question is still, how can I subtract 3-digit numbers? And our problem of the day is to compare 365 and 356. It says which number is greater, and we're going to use our alligator mouth. Remember that the alligator mouth is always pointing towards the bigger number because the alligator wants to eat the most, right? He's a very hungry alligator. So when we are trying to compare numbers, we're always going to start in our greatest place value, which is kind of opposite of a lot of what we do in math. Normally we start in the ones place, but when we're comparing, we're going to start in the greatest place value. In this case, it is the hundreds place, and I have 3 hundreds in the first number and 3 hundreds in the second number. So those two numbers are the same, and because they're the same, we have to go to the tens place and see if those are the same or if one of those is bigger than the other. So we're going to go look at the next one, and I have a 6 and a 5. So those are not the same number, which means that I can compare them. And which one is bigger, 6 or 5? 6 is bigger, so our alligator mouth is going to chomp the 365 because that's bigger than 356. So if I go back over here, I'm going to add in my greater than sign, and I would read this as 365 is greater than 356. All right, so let's do some practice over what we did yesterday. Remember yesterday we used basic facts to help us subtract our hundreds. So in this case, we have 0, 0, 0, 0, so we can pull down our zeros, and then our basic fact is 6 minus 2, which in this case is 4. 0, 0, bring it down, 0 minus 0, 0, and then our basic fact is 8 minus 2, which is 6. Same thing here, 7 minus 5 is 2. 3 minus 3 is 0, so that whole thing is 0, right? It would look like 0, 0, 0, but really all we need to do is 1 0 is sufficient. We don't need to do all 3. And 400 minus 0. So think about what's happening here, because this one's a little different than what we were working on yesterday. But this one, we're taking away nothing. So if we have 400 flats, and we don't take away anything, we're still going to have 400. Eli collected 300 cans of food. Maria collected 500 cans of food. How many more cans of food did Maria collect than Eli? This how many more here is a big clue to me that this kind of problem is comparing. We want to know who has more, so we're comparing here. Typically, when we're comparing two quantities, we are going to subtract because we're trying to find the difference between them. So in this case, Maria has collected 500. I have to start with that one because 500 is bigger than 300, right? And then I'm going to take away the 300 that Eli collected to find out how many left over Maria collected. So 0 minus 0, 0, 0, 5 minus 3 is 2, so 200 is my answer here. And that means, they both collected 300, right? Eli did and Maria did. So we want to know how many above and beyond 300 Maria collected. And in this case, it was 200 extra, right? If we're comparing, Maria collected 200 more cans than Eli. Okay, so we are going to look today at how we can subtract 10 or 100 mentally. And the biggest thing here is that we really have to pay attention to our place value. You need to know which place value is the hundreds, which place value is the tens, and which place value is the ones, because that will help you to know which number is going to change and by how much. So one way we could do this is by counting back. That helps us to solve subtraction problems. We can also write it out much like we did yesterday, though that wouldn't be mentally, right? And we can't always count on that because we don't always have a piece of paper and pencil when we need it. So counting back, counting on, either of those would work, or using those basic facts like we did yesterday. So let's try one. This says subtract 593 minus 10 using mental math. So really, mental math, this should be done in our head, but I'm going to write it out for you so you can see what I'm doing inside my head. We have 593, and we're taking away 10. So in this case, since the 9 is bigger than the 1, really, the only place value that's going to change is the tens place, because we have a 0 in the ones place, and there's nothing in the hundreds place. So the only place that's going to change is the tens place. So we're going to bring our 3 down, because 3 minus 0 is 3. We're going to bring our 5 down, and then the only number that needs to change is 9 minus 1, which is 8. So mentally, I would be picturing just this number, and I would think, well, what's 10 less than 90? It would be 80, and then I can just add these numbers back on to my completed number. Okay, so we're going to try 478 minus 100 using mental math. So again, I'm taking away 100, so the only one that's going to change is the hundreds place, which in this case is a 4, and we're taking away 1 from the 4, so that would put us at 3 hundreds, and then our 78 stays the same because we're taking away 0 and 0 from the tens and the ones. It says there are 672 tickets to a concert. 100 of the tickets are sold. Then 10 more of the tickets are sold. How many tickets are left to be sold? So this is one of those two-step problems here. Let's underline what we know. There are 672 tickets to a concert. 100 of them are sold. Then 10 more are sold. And circle our question here, how many tickets are left to be sold? So if we have 672 and they sell 100, we're going to take away, right? Because if they're selling them, they're gone. Really, this turns into a basic fact, which is just 6 minus 1, because we're only taking away 1 from the 100, so that turns into 5, and then 2 minus 0 is 2, 7 minus 0 is 7. Now, they sell 10 more tickets. So this time, the only place value that's going to change is the tens here, okay? That's the only ones. And this one, it was the hundreds, but this time it's the tens. So this is where it's super important for you to make sure that your place values are lined up, because if you take 1 away from 5, you're going to end up with the incorrect answer. So let's look here now at 572 minus 10. 2 minus 0 is 2. 7 minus 1 is 6. And then we bring down our 5 because there's nothing below it. So that's basically 5 minus 0. So there are 562 tickets left to be sold. You're going to need your MyMath book open to page 425. And we're going to look at a problem with using our base 10 blocks, and you'll need your pencil as well. So it says 135 students are on the playground. So I'm going to show you this with base 10 blocks. It says 100, maybe 30, 10, 20, 30, and 5 ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You should have enough base 10 blocks to make this on your own, or if you want to draw them on your Math in My World page, you can do that as well. So we have 135, and then it says that 100 students go inside. So 100 students are going to go away. So if we go back to our base 10 blocks, really we're just getting rid of this 100, right? 100 of them go away, so we can just take away that big 100. It says, how many students are left on the playground? So let me pull back up my writing utensils. 5 minus 0 is 5, 3 minus 0 is 3. I had 100, I took 100 away, so there are 0 hundreds. So I end up with 35, which is exactly what my base 10 blocks showed as well. So please write in 35 next to students, and then turn to page 426, and we'll start through our guided practice together. It says, to subtract 100 or 10, think of facts you know, mentally subtract 100. So we have 422 minus 100 equals 322, because again, we know that basic fact of 4 minus 1 equaling 3, and then the other two numbers are going to stay the same because 2 minus 0 is 2 and 2 minus 0 is 2. So really the only one that's going to change is the hundreds. Now when we're subtracting tens, we just need to look at the tens place and only subtract in that area. So again, 0 minus 0 is 0. The tens are where we are going to see a difference here, right? So 6 minus 1 equals 5. And then bring down the 4, so 450. We know that because of the basic fact, 6 minus 1 equals 5. Let's try a few more guided practice problems together, and then you will move on to your independent practice. So we're always going to start in the ones. However, because these are just subtracting 100, you really only need to focus on the hundreds, right? But it's a good practice for us to still do this starting in the ones. But if I were to do it mentally, I probably would just look in the hundreds and do it from there. So 9 minus 0 is 9, 2 minus 0 is 2. So the only thing I'm really focusing on are my hundreds, and I have 3 minus 1, which equals 2. So go ahead and write that in. Again, starting in the ones, we're only going to change our tens. So 0 minus 0 is 0. In our tens, we have 2 minus 1, which is a basic fact we know, 1. And then we'll bring our 8 down because there's nothing to take away from the hundreds. Okay, and again, 3 minus 0 is 3, 6 minus 0 is 6, 3 minus 1 is 2. Let's keep going. 8 minus 0 is 8. Only changing the tens place here, 7 minus 1 is 6. And bring down the 6. So the only number that changed there was our tens. Same thing here. Only our tens are going to change. Same thing here. 4 minus 0 is 4. 2 minus 1 is 1. Bring down the 7. 4. 5 minus 1 is 5. Bring down the 1. Now, these are written side to side. So if you wanted to, you could rewrite it up and down so that you can see your place values. But this is one you probably can do in your head. 900 minus 100 equals 800, because you're just focusing on those hundreds, right? 9 minus 1. And then same thing with this one. We could write 10 underneath to line up our place values, or you could just take 1 away from the 4, so 7's going to stay the same, take away a 10, and then the 1s are going to stay the same. So how to mentally subtract 10 or 100. When we're doing that, we need to find the right place value, hundreds, tens, ones, right? And then we need to just subtract 1 from the tens or 1 from the hundreds, depending on how we're doing that. And we can do that mentally, right? We can think about what's 1 less than that number of tens, or what's 1 less than that number of hundreds. So you are going to complete the independent practice on page 427 and the problem solving and brain builder on 428, and post a picture to schoolwork when you're finished.